Not quite. Everybody ready? Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the February 7th Campbell County School Board meeting. We're going to open our meeting with the Pledge of Allegiance and followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Thank you. Okay, can you hear me okay? Got a few speakers that would like to speak to us tonight, so we're going to start with matters from the floor. And I'd just like to remind you to be respectful of the 3-minute time frame. And so I'd like to invite Beth Hart up first, please. Beth Hart. All right, we'll move on to Mr. Gifford, David Gifford.
I'll also be brief. I just want to thank the board for recognizing parents' rights. I think it's a great day.
Can you speak into the mic a little bit?
I'm sorry, get a little closer there. I want to thank the board for recognizing parents' rights. I think it's a great day in Virginia. I think it'll help the families in their homes in raising their children. I think it'll ultimately bring more respect to the teachers in the schools. And congratulate you, Mr. Miller, for being our new chairman, and for Ann being on the board, Ann Parker. And I also give thanks to God that he had to turn Virginia red. And some people didn't think it could happen. But anyway, it's a great day. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gifford. Mike Levin. Is that Mike Levin? Jackie Mendez.
All right. Hi, good evening. Thank you for allowing us to speak. It's a little bit better in here this time around than we were here a couple of months ago. But good evening, board members and the Campbell County community. My name is Jacqueline Mendez, and I'm a resident of Campbell County. I said the curriculum in the schools is still pushing irrelevant ideas and tasks that harm kids' ability to learn the fundamentals of math, reading, writing, and science. Here's an example from the VIDO curricular, suggested primary grades thematic book list. Do we all play the same, feel the same, grow the same, look the same, live the same, act the same? This is for the earlier grades, for third graders and so. So as a board member, where are you on these aspects of critical race theory, emoji learning, and social emotional language? I was researching the VDOE teacher resources where I found vocabulary for the sake of diversity, equity, and inclusion for third graders. Our children are being introduced to words such as race and advocate. I think this is a little bit outrageous. I wasn't learning those words in third grade, and I was in public schools. So the easy way out would be to pull our kids out of the schools. It may be an option for some parents, but 80% of our parents in the county don't have this luxury. So I ask you, are you gaslighting us? Tell us here and now, are we wrong? So much of the last 2 years has been problematic because of the pandemic. So now the students are back in the classroom. We need to take aggressive steps to maximize learning through innovative ideas to raise reading, math, and science benchmarks in the county. So how do you improve every child in mastering the fundamentals and beyond? here's a viable program. I always come with ideas. I mean, that's what I do. That's what I get paid to do at my job. I think here's a viable program, partners that should be considered as a co-curricular activity instead of partnering with agencies like Beacon of Hope, which offers social justice themes and instill division and hate. I think the Dr. Ben Carson, reading rooms are created and equipped to instill the love of reading. What a neat idea. Instill the love of reading. Connect with the organization to start the process. There are 200 reading rooms around the country. Virginia has none. Identify partners in the community that are able to donate funds and books. You got parents here, people who are willing to give books to the reading room, publishers, furniture for the rooms. In the school, staffing can be arranged with teachers and parents and grandparents willing to offer a few hours per day or week. I said reading and the love of words ignite a child's imagination and reaching their God-given potential. So how amazing is this for this child in Campbell County to achieve their own success? As parents, we don't want to settle or ignore the signs of mediocrity. We want excellence, exceptionalism in our schools. So let's work together to start a number of reading rooms in the school district. Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Phyllis Floyd.
Good evening. I'm so glad to be here. My great-grandfather actually founded the Campbell County School Board, Walter Garby, and we have had over 36 teachers in our family since then. I have the side saddle that my grandmother and my aunts rode to teach. And I've looked through this board, and I'm looking through this room. I don't see anyone in here young enough to have been taught the trash that we're allowing in these schools. It will affect our grandchildren. It will affect everyone. I've been blessed to help found several Christian schools that are very large. I've been principal of several. I've been able to travel around the country. And the most eye-opening event that I ever had was FEMA hired me to develop their educational program. And as I traveled around the state and heard this, I was appalled and saw the results of it. When we lived in Canada, the school had a class in the high school, the Bible and other myths. So naturally, you can imagine that I went to the school board, and I was nice. Good manners are nice. Rudeness is not a virtue. But I was told that all of this we're talking about right now was already in the United States. We just didn't know it. And I'm looking at really smart people that wouldn't be sitting here right now if you had this kind of education. So I'm begging you to pay attention. It's a hard job to be on a school board because you don't hear everything. You can't go in and watch everything. But you do have a superintendent that does have a staff, and I hope to be around to find out what's going on and see if I can help. I'm not here to hurt anybody. I'm not here to damage anybody, but I am here. And I have to say, I'm really motivated because my granddaughter was in a school in Midlothian, and as a result of this trash being taught in the school, she was attacked, and it's just about destroyed her. So it just has to stop.
Thank you, Ms. Floyd. Kim Lemberg.
Good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Campbell County Special Ed Advisory Committee. I am the chair. We met last month to, Dr. Pontius, go over his budget request, and I know it's that exciting season for budget talks. And he had shared with us early in the school year a pretty impressive piece of news. Campbell County had an 80% graduation rate for students with disabilities at the end of the 2019 school year. That's the last data available through the VDOE. That's impressive. The state target is 61%, which is, nobody's proud of 61%, right? So I needed to put that in perspective because I want you all to understand it too. Of our neighboring districts, everybody that touches Campbell, no one else got to 61%. No one. Pittsylvania County came close. So I wanted to know how we were doing in the state. There are 4 other districts that performed at or better than 80%. One of them is Falls Church. Their per pupil expenditure is roughly twice our per pupil expenditure. Since I've known Dr. Pontius, since my son has been a student here, I've been very impressed with his dedication to our students, to ensuring that the Individuals with Disabilities and Education Act does what it's supposed to do, to get our kids ready for education and employment beyond Campbell County schools. And we scored above on those measures as well. And I know staffing is a huge issue, but I have to believe that there are those folks out there that maybe will settle for not the best salary, knowing they are doing the best work. And that's what we're set up to do here. There's no fluff in what Dr. Pontius has asked of Dr. Johnson. I know that he will put it to good use. I know that it will benefit our kids that look different, that act different, that sometimes sound different, to get them where they need to be in life. I continue to be very thankful for Dr. Pontius and his staff, and if anybody has any questions related to the budget or anything, I'd be happy to assist. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Lindberg. All right, and Randy Dunton, please.
As a former basketball coach, it's hard to do anything in 3 minutes, but we'll give it a whirl. So appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're very humbled and honored to share with you tonight a program we're doing. Congratulations, Chairman Miller, and on joining the board. We've had conversations in the past with Dr. Johnson. He's been very helpful. We look forward to more conversations with him in the future about what we're doing. So in the face of a lot of times that you guys are battling issues, we're here to offer you a little support tonight. And this is a post-secondary program. So as a coach, I became very aware of individuals that were trapped in hurdles and barriers and weren't making it, their way into the labor markets. And so when it started to become real popular in the media that Lynchburg had the highest poverty rate in the state of Virginia, I first was shocked at how that could be. And then I started going to some of the meetings. And so as I went to the meetings, I really came to realization that, the problems weren't trying to be solved. And again, in coaching, you got to solve a lot of problems. So in the end, my conclusion was the only way you're going to change poverty is you got to change income levels. And so we put together a program here that really is doing a great job. We've gone through our pilot stage. And it hasn't been without its problems, as you guys deal with, to get it up and get it going. It's birthing pains, as we call them. But we've gone through our pilot. We have 26 students now that are employed. I could give you a stat on Bedford because it's probably more relevant. We had 5 Bedford students in the program. All of them are making above $35,000 while they're finishing up their degree, or they went into the trades. And so what's happening at Legacy is 3 things. Accredited academics, we partner with CVCC, Liberty, and Bluefield. Then we're teaching extensive life skills. Very important that you understand what's going to happen to a student that comes to Legacy. From 8:30 to 9:30, Monday through Thursday, it's all life skills. And one of the greatest things that's missing right now in our curriculums is life skills. I mean, I sat with a university in town that we could all know. There's no sense saying a name, but I said, hey, is there any life skills as part of your curriculum? They said, absolutely not. There's none. And so then we wonder why our graduates are not, what we call ready for workforce pressure that's coming on them, and then they fail out. So we wanted to introduce you tonight a little bit about what we're doing, because we're on the agenda for March to make a full presentation. I'll bring our staff here, have three PhDs, 5 master's degrees that are in the building every day, working with the students. Legacy comes to the students at no cost to them. We just help them with their take their Pell Grant money and then to buy their education, and then we assist them to get to the finish line and then get into the workplace. Like tomorrow, one of our students who's been a little bit of a project, but it's great. At 12, we're having an interview at CloudFit. Well, CloudFit's got great jobs, and a lot of times the individuals in your communities aren't being connected to them. So appreciate what you're doing. We'll look forward to seeing you next month, but appreciate the 3 minutes tonight.
Sure.
And God bless you guys as you move Campbell County schools forward.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
We look forward to hearing from you. All right, I think that's everybody that signed up. But is Beth Hart here or Mike Levin? Okay. Okay, so approval of the January 10th meeting minutes.
Move for approval.
Second.
A motion is second. Any questions or changes to the minutes? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Payment of the bills.
Move we pay the bills as presented. Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any questions about the bills? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Acceptance of donations. Ms. McClanahan.
Tonight, you have 6 donations that were listed in advance of the meeting on board docs. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve them as presented.
I have a motion.
So moved. Second.
I have a motion and a second on donations. Again, we want to thank those people who make donations to our schools. Any discussion?
I was just gonna add, I noticed that that new 7-Eleven had opened up right there on the corner. Timberlake donated. That's great. Yeah. See that coming into this community.
Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, motion carries. Non-resident tuition.
Tonight, you have 3 applicants being considered for approval as a non-resident tuition student. Principals have already endorsed the students. I ask that you approve them as presented.
Motion. Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions or discussion on that? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. The motion carries. Supplemental transfer of appropriations.
Tonight, you have 3 appropriations listed for your approval. Unless you have any questions, I ask that you approve them.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion or questions from Ms. McClanahan? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Personnel report. Ms. Hunley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You have the personnel report in front of you, and as a reminder, it is longer this time because it's based on our survey that we sent out in January. So unless you have any questions, I'd ask that you approve it as written.
If there are no questions, I'll move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Do we have any questions?
I'd just like to recognize the fine gentleman back in the back, who is on the personnel
Yeah.
report tonight. I want to thank him for his many years of service. And if he can stick around for another 4 or 5 years, I think it'd be great.
Yeah. All right.
And also, Amy, can you tell us how the job fair went?
Sure, yes. So we had that on Saturday. We ended up having about 60 people that came to the event to interview. It went really well. I think we have some outstanding candidates to start with. We already have some principals scheduling some follow-up interviews. So I anticipate a lot of these positions will be filled by next month.
Oh, great.
Yeah.
I stopped by for a few minutes on Saturday, and I want to thank all the people who were there to participate, to help out and make it successful. Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you for coming by.
Okay, we have a motion for the personnel report. We had a motion. Did we get a second?
We got a second,
Okay.
then we got discussion.
All right, so all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, thank you very much. All right, Dr. Pontius.
Good evening, Dr. Miller, members of the board. Thank you for having me tonight. This is the presentation of the Special Education Annual Plan, which is, I've already given Dr. Johnson our budget request. This is just your federal assurances that you'll receive federal funds and you'll allot it to the education of students with disabilities. It's really just an assurance that that's how we'll use those funds. We actually don't get the appropriations until later in the year of what our actual federal fundings will be. So I'll take any questions or ask you to approve the annual plan.
Are the numbers consistent as far as the amount?
At this time, they are. We haven't seen any increase in federal funding. Been pretty much the same for as long as I've been here.
And I would just like to echo what was said before about our special ed program under your tutelage, and that's a real feather in our cap under your guidance for that success rate.
Well, I just get to be the roar of the lions, right? So, there's good people in the field doing good work.
Yeah, you have good people, so. All right, so any questions for Dr. Pontius? Okay, so do we need a motion to approve this?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. I hear a motion?
Motion.
Okay, Mark made the motion and Ann made the second. All right, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Okay, consideration of a resolution condemning the use of inherently divisive concepts, including critical race theory. Mr. Phillips.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Miller. Yeah, I would just like to bring before the board tonight a motion based off of some of the feedback we've gotten, not only at our meetings, but some emails that I've got from some constituents, and I would guess the rest of the board has gotten some of these concerns from the constituents of Campbell County as well, that we make a motion, or I would like to make a motion tonight directing Dr. Johnson and his staff to draft up a resolution in regards to the divisive concepts, including critical race theory, for us to review at the March meeting.
Second.
Any discussion or questions? All in favor of that motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that motion carries. We'll look forward to see this resolution next month. All right, Dr. Johnson, now the nitty-gritty.
Can you hear me okay? Okay. So tonight, we are presenting the 22-23 draft operating budget for the Campbell County Schools. Let me first thank Michelle in the finance office and Amy, a lot of work in the personnel office to pull a lot of information together for the hard work that they've been doing. Let me start just by making, a few comments regarding the budget. One, we're doing the budget earlier than we ever have. We've mentioned that before. The only information that we have is based off of the previous administration's governor's budget. As you note, the General Assembly is in session now. There will be amendments to the budget that we base these numbers off of. The House will develop a budget of their own. The Senate will develop a budget of their own, and then they will have a conference committee come together to work out those differences. So we have used a lot of trend data, but the majority of the information that's in this budget is off of the governor's budget. We fully expect to have to come back and make amendments to it once the houses, but we have to have it to the Board of Supervisors before a budget will be adopted in Richmond. Okay, that's not unusual. We are doing it a little bit earlier this year than in the years past. But anyway, so tonight what I'm going to do is really highlight the high level, what's in this budget that's new compared to the budget that we're currently operating under, okay? Just a couple of things that I want to point out in here. When you look at the increase in the budget, recognize that we have $15 million in carryover funds, stimulus funds, that's inflating this budget number. Okay, those are federal dollars that have to be in our budget that could be potentially in there until the end of '24. So it's nearly 15 million. You'll see when you look at your revenues on the federal side, you'll see that at the bottom, that number that increased. But all of those monies have been accounted for or planned to have expenditures associated with them regarding capital improvements and things of that nature. Okay,
So
but they will be spent over the next 2 years, but they're in our budget now.
So they're already encumbered.
Well, a lot of them were grants that we had to write and tell them what we would use that money for. So, yeah. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. The first slide that you see, again, this is based off of the governor's budget that was released in December. There will be some tweaks and things to that. So here, you'll see that we're going to get about $66 million from the state, from the Commonwealth. That's about $9 million more than this previous year, okay? And so we fully expect that to change some, but all of the information that we're hearing out of Richmond, there are some commonalities among the House and the Senate. And they primarily are associated with the 5% raise for all instructional staff. So in this budget, there's about $3 million. There's about $3.2 million to provide that 5% increase. We get about $1.8 million from the state to do that, and then we have a local match. Remember, when they talk about funding, fully funding a salary increase, they don't truly fully fund that because it's based off of the minimum standards of quality, and no school division in the Commonwealth of Virginia is able to staff at the minimum standards of quality, okay? So there is a local match to go with that. One of the other things that you'll see in this budget, and you'll see a line item in this budget, and let me just say, this budget's not quite balanced yet, and I'll explain why, and because I want to get some thoughts after you've had an opportunity to digest this. But one of the things that we've talked about for years is how do we get our compensation pay up from being 5th or 6th in the region up in the top third or second or third. We'd like to be number 1, but there's a couple divisions that have extremely high teacher salary, and we're not going to touch those. But the groups that we primarily compete with, right here in our region, Lynchburg, Bedford, Amherst, Appomattox, and we would like to be in that top 2 to 3. So what we did was, with the additional revenue that we had in the budget, we have begun exploring through the personnel office, Ms. McClanahan, and as I've shared with you, you can't catch up in the teacher salaries by just giving cost of living raises because everybody's giving a cost of living raise, so it's squared. What I've always said is you've got to put some money into the scale, into the teacher scale. So what we're proposing in the budget is to take up to 700 or approximately 750,000 of those new funds and dump that money into the teacher scale, okay? Now, the reason we're not giving you that number tonight exactly is we're still exploring some different options. For example, when you look at our area average of teacher pay based from 0 to 5 years, 5 to 10 years, and then 10 and beyond, we do pretty good in the early years. We do fair in the middle, but we're woefully behind in the latter years, which pays and rewards our most experienced teachers. Okay. So one of the things we've looked at is, can we go into the scale, put 500 into the first, that 0 to 5 year steps, 1,000 into the second, and then 2,000 in the upper this year to bring our scale. So the task that I gave Amy it was to, how can we bring our scale evenly across the board, but get us up in the top 2 to 3 in the region for pay. So we've done that. We've costed that out, and that's basically approximately a $750,000 endeavor. Okay, give or take. So we're still fooling with that. One of the other things we're looking at is where we take that amount of money and do we put it into the scale equitably across all of the steps, what that might look like. So we are still exploring some best use of those funds to get us, to bring our scale up, where we've been wanting to for years. So now there is some money in this budget that allows for that, so we're trying to figure out what the best use of it is. So I'm sorry, I don't have tonight exactly what that might look like. One, I'd like to hear what you believe. Number two, I would like for us to do some more work, because that's a lot of work on the teacher's pay scale, and the one thing we don't want to do is have unintended consequences in this budget. So, but what we're showing in here is a line item for that money to go into the scale. Okay?
I have a question.
Yes, I was going to say, before I move on.
Yeah, devil's advocate. Have we ever, since my first year, have we ever seen what's come from the state ever drop? Or have we always gotten similar funds or more, like year to
Oh, no,
year?
we've seen drops.
Okay, that's my.
Oh, yeah, we've seen,
That's why I asked.
during the recession, it was big drops. It was
Okay.
9, 12 million. But we're not I feel pretty comfortable that it's going to be somewhere here. We know that there could be changes. But we feel fairly confident that it's going to be somewhere close to what we're doing here. And we would have contingencies built in where,
Keep it sustainable.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep, that's exactly right.
Okay.
Yep. Okay. The other thing that you'll see in the budget is, obviously, minimum wage has been going up, and it's incrementally been going up, or has to go up to eventually get to the goal unless something changes to 15. We were scheduled to go to 12 this year. We've tried to plot that out a little bit each year instead of having a big jump in any one particular year. So what we're proposing in this budget is going an additional step, taking it to 13, which would overall increase our classified pay scale for those folks. So in addition to our certified teachers getting an increase, there would also be an increase for classified employees. Many of you we've talked for a long time. This budget does include the pay scale adjustments for bus drivers, and bringing that up to approximately $15.59 an hour for starting pay. That's about $120,000 expense to this budget. I've talked to the county administrator. We're both going to budget in this operating budget a 2% increase on the health insurance side for the employer, and then the additional 2% would come from the health insurance fund. Okay, for those of you that may not recall, we are self-funded. We've had 2 or 3 good years, so we will pay some of that increase in cost out of that fund. There will be no cost passed on to the employees for this current year. Remember, our health insurance runs on a January to December calendar. So every year we're budgeting for really two budget years in an operating budget. And then, as you may have heard tonight with special ed, we've had some personnel requests for the last several years that we've not been able to meet, but we believe in this budget we can do that. The requirement for ESL teachers, that's English as a second language. The number of students speaking English as a second language continues to increase. Therefore, we have to increase the number of teachers per 1,000 that we have. And so we're proposing that we add an ESL teacher. This budget emphasizes early childhood education. So this would fund an additional Virginia Preschool Initiative teacher and an aide. Reading specialists are big in this budget, so it would fund out of the additional funds, reading specialists, 3 full-time and 4 part-time, and 2 additional aides. It would include 3 spec ed teachers and 2 aides. And then 3 secondary teachers, math and science primarily. As we went to block scheduling a couple of years ago, we've been short-staffed, especially at Alta Vista Combined, and the scheduling has been a real challenge. It requires a few more staff members when you block schedule, so we are proposing we go ahead, and they were asked for last year, and we eliminated those just due to the amount of money we had. And then we've had a part-time mentor person for the last 2 years, mentor coordinator, very important to our new teachers. As we see new teachers leaving the profession now, we've got to provide them as much support as we can. We're proposing to make that a full-time mentor position out of the HR department. And then 2 additional maintenance positions would be added into that budget. Many of you heard a couple of weeks ago, we had the joint meeting, some concerns that we were understaffed in maintenance. I don't think there's any question that we are. One of those positions went away during the Great Recession and it never got filled. So it's really only an addition of 1. So that's really that's what's in here. Other than what's going on this year and past years, there are no other new initiatives. That's the changes to the budget in that one slide.
That's a big change.
Big change, but good change.
I've never seen that many new positions in
Well, we've never gotten that much additional, revenue from the state.
9 years.
And if it holds.
It's a big deal if we had 1. So that's huge.
Right. So, but again, it's early, and but we're doing the best with the information that we currently have. Okay, let's roll to the next slide. I've already mentioned the proposals, the 5% salary that's in that. It's 5% this year. It's additional 5% next year. That's in the biennium budget. As I mentioned to you, I think maybe at the last meeting, the interesting one was the school construction funds of $3.8 million. That's brand new. I've not in my tenure seen that in the budget. So we'll be anxious to see if that holds. Grocery tax hold harmless. That money, it doesn't show up in our budget. It may show up on the information, our calculation tool that they give us as grocery tax. It's really been dumped into the basic aid. But they gave, as you've heard, there's a lot of discussion about eliminating the grocery tax across the state. So what they wanted to do was make sure schools weren't harmed if that money went away. So that's what is there. But as you've also seen in the last few days, that's getting some pushback and some debate, and there's some concern that it could be some long-term funding issues if that goes away. So we'll keep a close eye on that. In our budget, it says re-benchmarking hold harmless. So every 2 years, the state recalculates, they'll re-benchmarks their standards of quality, the staffing levels, everything they expect us to do. The reason there's money in here is because they use the previous 2 years as data. And if you recall, in 20, transportation, special education, all those things were shut down. So there was a lot of unspent funds. So if you used that data, they would be significantly shortened, the amount of money you're getting. So they went ahead and re-benchmarked, but they also put in hold harmless based off of our composite index in this budget. As I mentioned last time, there are no changes to the VRS, and I've already mentioned that the health insurance increase would be 2%. Next slide is just, again, projections, ADM. That's average daily membership. We used the Department of Education's number to create this budget. We put that into our calculation tool. That doesn't necessarily mean how many students we actually have. That's how many students we're budgeting for. Okay, so those are really 2 different numbers. The next slide shows our school nutrition budget. That has to be included in our operating budget, but it is separate. But when you adopt our regular operating budget, you see Jan's budget here. Jan does a wonderful job of managing the school nutrition program and that budget, and I've not had any issues, with that over time. Just to break out some of the the general fund, where we get our money, you can see that we get the majority of it from the state. That's because our composite index is fairly low. You can see, and just so you know, that we are requesting level funding from the county this year, but we did when we sent our communication over to the county last week, they wanted a tentative number as to what we might be asking for. We told them it was going to be level, which they were appreciative, but we did say that to make it sustainable, that next year we probably would need some additional funds from the county, and we've asked for level funding now. I think this is 3 or 4 years in a row. So, but I did put them on notice, that we would probably need additional funds next year, because it's not as much of the compensation supplement in the second year of the biennium. And again, the federal, you can see that the amount of money that's in there for that. And then just a couple of graphs that just to illustrate visually where our funds come from. The green obviously being, the state level, the majority of our funds, and then the state, and then the federal. Has grown over the years some, not significantly. I remember when it was much smaller than that. And then if you go over and look at the expenditures, the general fund expenditures, obviously the majority of our money is spent in instruction. Our federal programs, you can see that's a big piece. Admin, pupil transportation, those are all categories required by the Department of Education, the state. That's why it's broken out into those different categories, okay? And then again, a visual to illustrate what that looks like. And then the last slide before I take questions would be just again to remind you that we have a second meeting this month, the 22nd, to adopt the budget. And then I think we have to have it in the system by the 23rd over on the county side. So we will, hopefully the last few days, a couple of days leading up to that, once we've worked out any kinks and we've communicated individually with each of you, we'll start inputting some of that information so we can come in on the 22nd and to adopt the budget. That would be the only agenda item that night. And then as far as at the county level, we will be available if they begin their work sessions and start having conversations and things, we will be available to answer those with them. If they request a joint meeting, we will go. But again, it's at their pleasure. So that's a lot, and it's quick.
It's a good budget.
So let me just stop there and ask you. As Michelle and I said today, I'm not sure I can put it exactly like she did, but it's a little, I don't want to say unnerving, but when you're working with so many uncertainties at this point, this early in the year with this kind of budget, but we're based off the best available information we have today. But we feel fairly confident that as I talk with folks in Richmond, as I'm our Region 5 legislative person, I get a feel that that a lot of this may work it out. They may move the deck chairs a little bit, but the overall bottom number is going to be fairly close, is what I'm hearing. Now, who knows what could happen in the next few weeks. But again, once we adopt the budget, if we have to come back and make changes, we'll do that. So I'll answer any questions that I can tonight, but what I would suggest is once you've had a time to get into it, give us a call, either make an appointment individually to come in and sit down with Michelle and I to review it, and we can answer any questions you might have by phone. But I really bring you back to that first real slide, where that's what's changed in this budget over our operating budget this year. Nothing else.
Got one question and one comment. The minimum wage increased to $13 an hour. You said it may go to 15. Now, how do we get caught if that happens and ours is 13?
26 if it goes to 15.
It goes to
Yeah,
26? Okay.
Yeah, we got time.
All right, and then the 750 dumped into the teacher pay scale. I would encourage you to be liberal on that, because other localities are gonna do the same thing, and if we do our part, we may even end up losing ground.
Well,
So,
I haven't heard anybody say they were doing
I
that,
appreciate you.
except
I
but
appreciate you doing it, because it's something we haven't done for several years.
it's the only opportunity we've had in
So-
years.
So I think it's a great move.
Yeah, I hope that holds. I really do. I'm confident the 5% is going to hold with certainty. I'm very hopeful and fairly confident that we'll have additional funds to put into the scale, but it's no guarantee there. But we're going to start out with that. That would be our goal. That's what we're shooting for.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but have we been able to absorb that health insurance increase for several years now?
Yeah, we've had all right, so again, we're self-insured, so we don't have those high administrative fees of being fully insured, okay? meaning that they take all the risk as opposed to us, and we pay them for taking that risk. So we've had good years, meaning our claims have been within our targets, so we haven't had to dip into the fund. So we've actually, a couple of years, been able to add some money to the fund. But I've been here long enough and watched and seen that it does this. We have 2 or 3 good years, and then we'll have a couple bad years. So you're gonna have a bad year sooner or later, where our claims are gonna be up, but you'll be able to absorb that. So that's what we've kind of done, is smooth this whole thing out over time using the fund, keeping, not saying, oh man, we've got a great year, let's use those funds for something else. We don't do that. We keep those funds there and wait for the bad year, because I've been here when we've had the bad years.
No, that's great, good.
Yeah, I don't know exactly how many years, but I think it's been at least 3 years since we've had to pass on any employee increases to their health insurance, and that's been something that's been very positive for us and helps us in our recruiting and everything. When you hear other places going 12% increases, so you get a 5% raise and you get a 12% increase in health insurance, doesn't take a lot of math to figure that out. It's a loss.
Yeah.
What is the current starting pay for a bus driver?
What is the current starting pay for bus drivers?
$13.49.
Pardon?
How much?
$13.49.
So they're getting a pretty good raise.
Yeah.
$13.49.
And Dr. Hogan, did you put any additional money in for fuel?
Yes.
Based on what it's definitely doing?
Michelle and I kind of watch that, how we usually do, and then.
But yeah, we talked about that today, put some in.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
Because that's very uncertain this year. We haven't had to worry about that very long, but for the last few years, but now a little bit more worried about it.
So, not to be a Debbie Downer, but this roughly $9 million more that we're getting from the state than we've gotten in the past. We're gonna need most of that, well, I guess other than the school construction, we're gonna need that again next year.
And it's
Do we think?
most of it is in there in the second year. So they give us both years. When they do a biennial budget, they give us both years. So they're indicating that there's going to be additional dollars in the second year of the biennium. It's just not going to be quite as much. And see, and with the reason I say we may need more, there's a lot of unknowns in this budget. Health insurance costs, our electricity, gas, all types. I mean, there's a lot of moving parts, fluid parts in this budget that, we make assumptions on. And, so if for some reason some other fixed costs exceeded our normal trends, then, and you had this compensation in there, then you'd need some additional dollars.
Yeah, I hate to spend money we don't have, or hire people and then not be able to pay them in a couple of years. So, but I'm real excited that we're adding staff. I mean, and I'm real excited that we're looking at our pay scale and making adjustments. And
Well,
I'd like to
and
echo.
we're able to do both classifications, both certified, and by going ahead and raising the minimum wage to 13, it's not just those people that go up that were below that. So what we do is when we do that, we move to everybody, because it's not fair to just all of a sudden pay somebody, $13 an hour, and somebody's been here 10 years, it goes ahead of it. So what we do is we have to adjust the entire scale when you make that increase to the minimum wage.
Now, back to that same slide, we have breakdowns of how much the 5% raise will cost, things like that, but we don't have a breakdown of personnel additions. So maybe before we vote on it, we can. take a
Sure.
peek.
Yeah, we can add that over in the sides.
I would hate to guess on my own.
It's am I fair to say roughly 60,000 per FTE on average? That includes salary and benefits. That's a rough round number that we use
Okay.
in-house.
Okay.
But we can put that on here next time.
Okay.
Give that to you specifically.
And those positions are already in here,
Yes,
somewhere
and
in
you'll see it in the
instructional.
comment section.
Yeah.
You'll see it in
okay.
the comment section.
So it will be in here,
Yes.
and it'll show up.
The increase that it went up. But for simplification, we can put that dollar amount out on the side.
All right.
Bobby, is this technology piece, it's about 5%, is that consistent with what we've been doing in the past with the technology portion of the budget? Any increase there or decrease or?
Well, obviously in compensation and those people that are paid from the technology budget, they went up. But I think that we have managed pretty well. Dr. Slusher's given me a thumbs up. You know, we've put a lot of money into technology over the years, and we feel pretty confident that he's not beating down my door every day saying, I need additional dollars.
Yeah, he's sitting behind a lot of technology
Well,
over there right
that's
now.
borrowed. That's borrowed. We're still trying to get the new equipment for this room so we can stream properly, but it's held up wherever it's held up in a container somewhere. I don't know.
That's kind of the reason I asked, because
We leverage a lot of perpetual grants that we find, and we're finding that those funds to be very beneficial, and then we also adhere to some federal programs that allows us to pay 30 cents on the dollar for a lot of our hardware.
That's the E-rate program.
Which is extremely beneficial to our division.
that's what I was asking with all these, the laptop expense and online and online learning and so forth. I don't know if we were seeing a spike there.
Yeah. Well, I saw we just bought a couple of Promethean boards last month, right?
Well, we have them ordered, they haven't come in.
Okay.
And we do a lot of our own maintenance too, so we don't have to outsource a lot of our stuff because our personnel and technology has been trained to take care of those things, so we don't outsource them a lot of money from that standpoint as well.
Any other general questions?
For those who might not see the budget, I just want to appreciate, and I know I asked a lot of questions coming in, but I love having it, basically I'm looking at 5 years side by side. So that gives me a lot of perspective, that, to figure out where the money's going, where it's been, and almost all of them are
Yeah,
still
but I
the
do want to
same.
point out, if you'll notice, in last year's audited numbers, a lot of them are going to be less.
Okay.
Okay, and the reason that is because we use stimulus dollars, okay? And we returned that money, that was county money that we returned. We used federal dollars and returned the money to the county, and it's sitting there in a capital plan for our capital improvement plan for maintenance, long-term maintenance projects. So that's why that audited number from the last year will be a little skewed down.
Wait till you get into carryover. That gets confusing too. So, yeah. Well, good. Any other questions? All right. Do you have any report?
I do.
Other than,
I do.
Okay.
Yep. So I have a few things that I want to go over that have come up at the last couple of meetings. One of the things is I got several questions today. Did anything change in our mask policy? No. In regards to the most recent two findings, court cases that are in, we're staying the course. Masks are optional, and we'll let it play out in the courts, and hopefully by then it'll all be done. While we're talking about budget, we did recently in the last week post on our webpage beside the budget, and we do have a summary sheet on there that we created last year. That will be updated once this budget is adopted to reflect this budget. But the one that's on there now is the summary sheet for the operating budget that we're working from now. But we also posted a chart of accounts, which is technically a legend for all of the object codes and all of the numbers that's on our budget. Our budget is dictated by the state. We have those 5 categories that I showed, all those object codes and everything are dictated. That chart of accounts is dictated by the state, so that at the end of the year, the one big report, we do many, but there's one that's the queen of them all, the annual school report, and it's so that when we upload that information, it goes into their system and it's comparable to other systems across the state. But so I'm not saying that chart of accounts, that when you look at it, is going to be easy to understand, but if you spend some time looking at it, and you want to know what an object code is and what it references to, you can go there and find it and go back to the budget. But that is what it is, okay? But we did post that to try to help some, okay? I wanted to speak to some technology safety that was brought up at the last meeting. I've asked our staff to look into that. So I'm going to read some of this from you that came from our staff. First off, we, from the inception of the use of our technology, we've complied with all federal and state laws, and there are lots of them in regards to using technology. Children Internet Protection Act, Children Online Privacy Protection Act, Family Educational Rights and Privacy Act. So there's a lot, and we are in compliance. We have to be in regards to doing what we're doing to protect students from illicit internet interactions. We have continually updated our network with software, hardware, and other techniques to bolster our technology framework for the purpose of having our students safe when interacting on the internet for educational needs. We've inserted some instruction within the curriculum teachers have to educate students on the proper behaviors when using the technology. Our students are provided a device for internet interaction for educational purposes only, and per the acceptable use agreement that is displayed on their main screen every time they power on a computer. They are also provided a school email with a permanent password that they cannot change, and it's for instructional communication. Both the device and the email are property of the schools and are not for personal use. And the device and emails are monitored. They are monitored as best as possible by the technology department and administrators when needed. All of our devices are filtered with software that is compliant with the state laws that I mentioned earlier. That process is in place whether they're in school or at home. Okay, so those filters are in place. With any system, when it's not 100%. Students are smart, and they are continually working to try to figure out ways to get around those softwares and those things, and we stay on top of it as we find that they have breached or figured a way around a particular filter, then we try to correct that, okay? But it's not to say that it's 100% foolproof. So we're continually adjusting and upgrading the system to try to protect the safety of all of our students. Our network system does not allow student smartphones. So if a student's in our school and they want to log onto our network with their personal device, they cannot do that. They have to go out to the internet, use LTE or whatever else there is. They cannot. We shut down the guest network a year or two ago, for this being one of the reasons they were using personal devices to download illicit content, okay? So we don't allow that. So if they are doing that on their own devices, they're doing that on their own data. They cannot log on to our network at our school to do that. So what I would say in summary is, it's moving. It's all the time. You hardly hear the news when you don't hear about cybersecurity or something of that nature. These kids are no different. They know and are working, and it's a small few. The majority have done everything they're supposed to do, and they're doing a great job with it. But there are a few. So I can say that we're continually looking. We have all the safeguards in place. We're compliant with all the state and federal laws that we have to be to deliver it, put these technology devices out to our people. And we're constantly working and trying to educate our students on proper etiquette for technology. And we'll continue to do that, but it's not foolproof, And so we would we would encourage parents to monitor what their kids are doing when they do have the devices at home, if they have our devices, and help with that. Any questions on that? I wanted to give an update. At the last meeting, I mentioned cultural competency, that we hadn't gotten a lot of information. There was some training that was to occur for our administrators who would be evaluating teachers. There was training for them on that. I asked our personnel director to evaluate one of those trainings, and she did, and was not impressed at all. And after we discussed, we said we would not sign up any administrators for any of that training. Ironically, I think it was just last week, that the DOE notified us that they had pulled that training, put it on hold. But we weren't doing it anyway. So that's all I have to report, other than we did recently post on our Facebook page some upcoming meetings that were to occur at the Department of Education. And as we get, I'm sorry if I'm reading.
Yeah, I'm not sure who's.
As we get notifications of upcoming meetings and evaluations of Department of Education things, we're going to start posting those on our Facebook page.
Oh, great.
Okay? And as in regards to Mr. Phillips and I have been in discussion now for several months. We've reviewed a lot of different materials that have come in. We've asked our instructional staff to review all curricular and materials that have come in, and we will embed that in the resolution that we draft, and hopefully I can get the copy of that to you prior to the March meeting so we can have that tied up nicely so you could take action on it at the first board meeting in March. That's all I have. Thank you.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you. All right, matters from the board will present different topics. I guess we will start with Mr. Jones.
I guess first, I'd just like to thank the individuals and the teams, whoever they may be, that cleaned the parking lots and the sidewalks during all the snow and ice, because that was a tough deal. If the sun didn't hit it, it was tough to get the ice and snow away. So just thanks to everybody that was involved with doing that. Again, thanks to all the staff throughout all our schools that are keeping us going and just dealing with, everything on a daily basis. And it's just truly impressive, and we truly appreciate it. And this is from Concord. This is in Ms. Vernella's vocabulary, not necessarily mine. We are rocking and rolling as we welcome February, the month for kindness. We have students sharing random acts of kindness all around the building, and Mrs. Herbert, our counselor, has events planned both for this week, which is School Counselor Week, and next week, which is Virginia Kindness Week. We are also going to be dancing it out on Friday as we are holding a Dance Fit fundraiser to raise money for a second shade to go on our playground. So appreciate all she's doing at Concord. And again, I want to thank Dr. Hale and the Rustburg High School staff for making accommodations for us to meet there the last, 3 or 4 months. Just appreciate what all they did to make it possible for us to meet there. The Rustburg Middle School building continues to grow and is very, very impressive. I'm sure they're dealing with mud up to their knees, but it continues to grow and it's very, very impressive when you drive by and look at it. Thank Mr. Dunton for sharing what sounds like some very promising information that may benefit the individuals that truly need to get a benefit. And Amy, looked like you've been working hard. I mean, you got a lot of years of experience that are leaving, but thank you for all of your work. And Michelle and Bobby and whoever else helped work on the budget, thank you for all that hard effort. And that's all I got.
Mr. Phillips.
Going down the line, I assume. See, we've got the annual dodgeball tournament coming up on February 24th at Rustburg High School. They do this every year to raise canned goods for one of the local food pantries. So that's a great effort there, and glad to see that's continuing this year. Also want to thank our speakers that came out tonight. Thanks for bringing your concerns before the board. I always like to hear from you, good, bad, or indifferent. And thanks to Dr. Johnson and Ms. McClenahan and the staff for pulling together the budget for us to review tonight. Appreciate that. And I think that's all I have for tonight. Short and sweet.
Ms. Parker.
Do I talk loud enough, or do I need the mic? All right. All right, thanks to everyone. I have to just let everyone know I've met with Mr. Sisk and Doctor, I can't remember who are doctors, Sisk and Stanley. Dr. Stanley this week. We actually had such great meetings, I didn't make it to see Ms. Hunley. So I appreciate everyone. I've had great open door with everyone since I've been on the board. I'm super excited, and I'm really proud and happy with all of the wonderful things that have been happening this year already with us at the board. I would like to obviously thank our speakers tonight. I like the reading, when Jackie spoke about reading room, I remember the pod. I don't know if anyone had pods growing up, but we had pods, and I think only the good kids got to go to the pods, if I remember correctly, in elementary school, but obviously reading should be at the front, and I know that I loved seeing the reading assistants on our proposed budget, so I think we're all moving in the right direction. I did reach out to the, finally, last minute, as I apologized even to Mrs. White, this morning to Tomahawk, Brookville Middle and Brookville High School, and Mrs. White had a little bit of an update for us on its senior night. I have a senior, it's kind of exciting, right? It's coming close to graduation, but Wednesday, boys basketball, indoor track, and wrestling have senior night, and Thursday, girls basketball, swim, cheerleading, and prep band. Also, the region swim and dive is this Wednesday, and the regional indoor track and forensics are both on Saturday. And spring sports tryouts start already on February 22nd. I cannot believe it. Here already. I do want to say hello to Miss Natalie Stevens, who's out in the gallery. She is a student, a Rustburg student, and dually enrolled at CVCC in government, and she was burdened with shadowing me and attending the school board meeting to learn about policy making. So we appreciate Miss Natalie tonight for being here. I also want to mention that last week I was actually honored to be at the Virginia Capitol to support educated-related legislation. My first time ever, everyone should go. I got news today that Senate Bill 656 passed out of the Senate Education and Health Committee with bipartisan support. Making its success through the full Senate is very likely. As I noticed, they really lean on their special committees when they go to vote. So we're hoping that this will pass in the Senate this week. This legislation will ensure that parents can review sexually explicit material taught in schools and request alternative assignments for their children. So reach out to your senators. This is in the Senate. Mr. Newman, let him know that you'd like him to do what he can to get that passed. I also wanted to speak to, how great it is that we're putting together, drafting a resolution to look for divisive issues in our local school district. And just remind everybody that the governor passed Executive Order 1, which is specifically for the state, the Virginia Department of Education, to recognize. He gave that superintendent, I thought originally it was for Bobby, so I had written this whole resolution, for us to help Bobby in his 90 days find all of this madness in our schools, but it's actually the state superintendent was given 90 days to acknowledge divisive practices in education. And as you've heard from Dr. Johnson's update, and seen things like the math, they've been striking things left and right since January 15th. So super excited. Check out the Virginia Department of Education. It's looking a little less icky every day. So super excited about that. Lastly, I want to say that I'm also happy to see on a national level that Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware are also going to mask optional for students.
Thank you. Mr. Epperson.
Thank you. I'd like to thank all the speakers that came out tonight. We appreciate it, and appreciate everybody braving the weather and coming out. Also, I'd just like to thank Mr. Dunton, too, and I'm looking forward to the next meeting to hear more about the Legacy Education Center. Amy, I'm sorry I didn't make the job fair. I had basketball games for my granddaughter and grandson. I couldn't make it, but I'm glad it was a success, and it sounds like everything went well. Dr. Johnson, I'd like to thank you and the staff for your hard work on this budget. I know it's not easy. Even when you think you're getting more money, it's still not easy. So we appreciate all you do. And I'd just like, going back to the personnel report, I know we got a lot of retirees. Donnie Wilkerson, is he still here?
Thank you, left.
I just wanted to congratulate him on his upcoming retirement, wish him the best. And I think that's all I've got.
Excuse me. I'd like to congratulate the Alta Vista alumni that were inducted into the first class of the Hall of Fame at the Alta Vista High School. They were awarded plaques during the basketball game Saturday against William Campbell. And then afterwards, they had a banquet meal. Leon's buddy, Bud Foster, was there as a guest speaker. And it was really nice to see the community support him. There was like 200 people at the banquet. And I hope they have the ability to continue this, because it was pretty impressive. We had 3 former NFL players there. Wow. A little school act out to Vista. That's pretty impressive. And also, I'd like to congratulate, we had 10 students on the swim team qualify for state. That was also Saturday. Cool. So, big things out of a little school. Your turn, Leon.
My turn. I won't repeat everything, but Barry started out by thanking a lot of people over the last month and doing things around the school and budget, and Michelle and Bobby and Amy, and I'm not gonna stop naming names because I'll leave somebody out, but thank you all for all the hard work you've done on the budget. Got talked with the principals in the Brookville area, and Ms. White, I think you've been very busy giving her a lot of reports, so she let me know that Corey Bonham teaches science and math at Brookville High School, was recently announced as a top teacher in the Lynchburg Living magazine, and this article will be published in the March and April issue. So, also, I was able to attend a production that was held over the last 4 days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and yesterday afternoon, and it was called The Crucible. And students and all, they just did a remarkable job. It was almost 3 hours. And I could watch a ball game for 3 hours, but very seldom I do a production for 3 hours. But it was well worth it and very much enjoyable. Also, this week is February 7th through the 11th is the National School Counselors Week. And I want to thank all our school counselors for all their hard work and dedication that they have. And I think, Dr. Johnson, Barry, we have a joint committee Wednesday evening at Brookville High School. So that's all I've got.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody. I just sort of want to echo what everybody said about, we realize how much work goes into preparing these budgets, and so thank you for all that. Thanks for all the speakers. I guess she's not here, the SEAC representative. I wanted to personally thank her. And we had a brief Laurel board meeting, mainly budget stuff, and we don't have our budget yet because we don't have numbers and stuff. And so there's some stuff going on with Laurel that we're looking at, but everybody's doing well there. Everybody's doing a good job there. As far as Brookneal Elementary and William Campbell, I spoke with the principals, and they're pretty happy with how things are going. They're dealing with absenteeism and a lot of other sicknesses other than just COVID, but feel things are going good. The SOLs they felt comfortable with. Of course, William Campbell was very proud of their basketball game the other night against one of our in-town rivalries, and so I won't rub it in, Gary, but so I want to. So that's, I think that's all I have for tonight. So. Yes.
One more. Thank you to go out. So next week is School Board Clerk Appreciation Week, so we didn't want to overlook Tracy Dobbins. She does a great job of keeping us all in line, so thank you, Tracy. One week early, but we'll get it in there, so thank you.
All right. Anybody else have anything? And I think I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Not all at once, okay? Do we have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Say aye and close your laptops.